Joining us now is OjyOkpe, the Empress of Umukwata.
Good morning, Rufai. How are you? Rufi on fire. How's it going?
Ayo, hello, Oji. How are you?
I'm doing excellent today.
I love it.
You know why? My favorite girl. Yes, I'll tell you why. Well, before we begin what's trending, we would like to celebrate our favorite international correspondent, Adefemi Akinsoya, on the occasion of her 35th birthday. Adefemi has built an impressive career reporting from the front lines of Russia's invasion of Ukraine to covering U.S. presidential elections and the World Economic Forum in Davos. She's a 2023 fellow at the prestigious Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard University and holds a BA in international politics from King's College London. Her incisive interviews with prominent world leaders have earned her recognition as one of Nigeria's most accomplished international correspondents. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
And Femi has brought implications.
No, she is ready.
She's capable.
The task. I mean, Adefemi has been doing brilliantly. Yes. I mean, her profile is way more than that. Yeah. Like I said, she has been doing, amazing work, reporting and interviewing prominent leaders across the globe. Adefemi Akinsoya, we are very proud of you. Happy birthday. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Adefemi.
We are going to have a good time.
We sure. That's what we do best.
Bravo. Bravo. I love you, Adefemi. Well, all right. Let's begin what's trending. Nobel Laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has challenged U.S. President Donald Trump's characterization of Nigeria's security crisis, insisting the conflict is not a Christian-Muslim war, but a battle against extremist groups. Speaking during an interview with Democracy Now!, Soyinka stated that Trump's sweeping statements distort the true picture and risk deepening religious hostilities. The playwright emphasized that Nigeria is dealing with extremist political Islamists known as ISWAP or Boko Haram, and not Muslims as a people. Let's take a look.
The Christian Islam or Islam versus the rest, or even Christianity versus the rest, that kind of dichotomy has existed, as I said, for quite a few decades. We've had, unquestionably, the issue of impunity. In other words, if we identify, for instance, certain extreme groups in one religion, and the perpetrators of these horrors get away with it openly. There was a girl, a student, who was brutally lynched, really savage and dehumanized before being killed. The perpetrators who were charged to court, who were eventually acquitted, or at least the charges dismissed, when it gets to the level where such perpetrators go on internet displaying a box of matches and saying, I quote, "There's the box of matches with which I killed. I was the one who set fire to her," and nothing happens to them, and they walk free. Now, it is those kinds of incidents which escalates in popular perception that there is a brutal war going on between Christians and Muslims. Whereas in truth, we're dealing with extremists. We're dealing with political Islamists, known sometimes as ISWAP across West Africa or Boko Haram within Nigeria. These are the real enemies of society.
All right, Vimba, Professor Soyinka's intervention provides a crucial nuance, reminding us that the real enemy is extremism that weaponizes religion for political and economic gain, killing Muslims and Christians alike. And I'll just take a reaction. Obviously his comment, because of how, diverse the conversation has been, has garnered a lot of reactions. But I'll just take one and I'll come to you, Vimbai. Godfrey wrote on X, he said, with respect to Professor Soyinka, downplaying Nigeria's crisis as not Christian Muslim ignores reality. Extremists have a clear agenda. History shows Arab, Islamic forces enslaved Black Africans for 1,300 years. Global attention, like Trump, is an opportunity, not a threat. I mean, this ex-user, believes Professor Wole Soyinka is actually downplaying the conversation. But we all know that we have these extremist groups, history in time. We know that this is the actual group that has been targeting, whether be it Christians or Muslims. We've also heard these groups, call out the name of Allah when they do the killings with the Christians as well.
Extremism is, we all know, is not unique to Nigeria or to the Sahel. We've seen similar groups across the world, specifically in the Middle East. At the moment, you see groups like Hamas, for example. They are terrorist organizations. Their philosophy and their indoctrination is very clear, which is that they are anti-anything that is not an extreme form of what they consider to be Islam. Because again, if you sit down with Muslim faithful, they will tell you that our religion does not condone X, Y, and Z. So it's very important to make that distinction. However, having said that, we also need to remember that extremism here in Nigeria has an equally targeted Christians, because as much as it targets moderate Muslims, I remember Ayo made this point very profoundly the other day. However, those who are most vulnerable are Christians because they are more obviously not part of that, not aligned with the cultures and the traditions. Whereas a moderate Muslim, for example, will seem to appear to be more in tune with the cultural perspective. For example, the dressing, just a simple example. So it's easier to pick out a woman who is dressed in a Western way versus somebody who is maybe wearing their hijab and so forth. So that targeting makes it easier. Having said that, it's also important for us to now remember that Nigeria's challenges have now snowballed into economic issues. We know the economy around the insecurity that has been created. We know that there are some communities that even safeguard and protect these people because, for example, if you're somebody who sells soft drinks for a living, they'll buy your soft drinks at a premium, 300, 400% more than the local market price. Right. And in doing so, they've induced the locals. Mm-hmm. Now, secondly, we know that this has also snowballed into criminality, general kidnapping, people who have an interest in kidnapping for ransom and so forth, are now hiding under the cover of the extremism that hasn't been nipped in the bud. So, we can't downplay it. We can't reduce it to say that, oh, it's not Christians, whatever. The foundational issue is there, and it exists from a historical context, which I've spoken on several times here. From the 19th century, we know that there's been this southward movement towards the coast, and they say, some of these extremists will say the plan is to take the Quran to the sea. So, we can't downplay that for the sake of, politics or sounding politically correct. The facts are there.
The facts are there, Vimbai. Meanwhile, a prominent Nigerian televangelist is sparking intense debate with explosive claims about the history of violence against Christians in the country. Apostle Michael Olowookere made the remarks during a recent sermon that has since gone viral on social media. The preacher alleges that the root of terrorism and mass killings of Christians in Nigeria stretch back decades, long before recent security crisis. He claims he grew up in northern Nigeria, already knowing that Christians were endangered species. Let's take a look.
In 1992-93 in Kaduna, a riot broke out which they call the Zango Kataf riot. I was a young boy, very, very young then, and people were killed in scores. If you are not an Afsa person practicing Muslim in Islam, they were killed. Especially if you are from the southern part of Kaduna, the tribes from the southern part of Kaduna, they were massacred. It was called the Zango Kataf riot. And if the next thing they do is to burn churches, kill Christians, and then if they're done with that, then they focus on businesses that is for Igbo people, Igbo-owned businesses, and they destroyed it. I grew up knowing that Christians are an endangered species in Nigeria. In the year 2000, when the Sharia riot, how many of you have heard of the Sharia riot? Hundreds of thousands of people were killed in Kaduna. I can remember vividly that we had to defend our house from people. They brought some Fulani boys and they faced our house. They were shooting arrows. They were stoning our zinc. They spot our zinc shooting arrows. Even though I was a Muslim then. Even though my father was a Muslim then. But because majority of the people in our compound were Christians, so they were willing to destroy every one of us because we're living with Christians.
All right, everyone's speaking up now, Rufai. These are serious historical claims from the preacher, and they've, clearly struck a chord, particularly among Nigerian Christians, who say his account reflects experiences that have been overlooked far too long. The question many are now asking is, when did targeted attacks against Christians actually begin? Was it decades ago, as the apostle suggests, or gradually escalating over time? Or is it primarily tied to more recent insurgencies and banditry, as authorities often claim at the moment? Rufai, he highlighted different aspects from, I believe, 2014 all the way down to the time of Goodluck Jonathan. He mentioned names and talked about how banditry started, how terrorism started. Documented facts. I encourage our viewers to, go watch the full clip. It was about 15 minutes. I know you wanted to speak on Wole Soyinka as well. I'd like for you to tie in both stories, and I'll take this.
See, I have seen a lot of ignorance. I'm playing to the gallery since this conversation started. I can see a lot of folks now think it's a fight between Christians and Muslims. It is not. And I've repeated that for the upton time.
Yes.
Secondly, there are extremists across every religion. Every religion. Yes, as extremism across every religion you can think of. As long as there's a religion, there's a belief system, there are people that take their belief system to extreme. That's what extremism is all about.
I think the point he's making, that's Professor Wole Soyinka, in terms of extremism, is talking about the killings that have occurred so far. I don't think that we should compare apples and oranges here about the extremism in terms of religion in that regard.
Oji, I'm making my point,
Yes.
and I know where I'm going.
Okay.
You cannot make my point for me.
Okay.
They are extremists.
But you have to explain what you mean by
across
extremism
every religion.
in the other religions.
And I succinctly explained, Oji, by saying that as long as you have a belief system, which is a religion, there are extremists across that.
Okay.
What is happening in this regard, all right, is genocide against Christians. Muslims too are being killed. We get that. But the people that this killing has happened selectively and that they have complained in Benue, Yelwata, and other areas are Christians.
Correct.
And it passes the law of genocide because replacement is also happening. They can't go back to those communities. All right? So if Wole Soyinka is talking about extremism, no. This is just persecution and genocide killings against Christians.
Islamic extremists. That's what he meant. Yeah.
So extremists, Islamic extremism.
That's what he meant.
I do not think it's right to put terrorist killing groups that have an agenda under extremism. I do not think so, because it's not right. Because it's an orchestrated agenda. And guess what? They do not kill solely for that intent. They also engage in criminality, they also engage in crime, and they set out to kill a particular group of people. So I'm just trying to make a clear decision out of it. Secondly, what this reverend is saying is not today. We all know about the Zango Kataf riots.
Yes.
We all know, even way back, the Zango Kataf has spanned many years. Inter-religious and ethnic problems. But the rabbit hole a lot of people are pushing the narrative to that I don't want us to go to is the fact that, it's Christians against Muslims. Because so you have extremists, Christian mentality, then you have extreme Muslim mentality. And I'll give you a very strong point. While some people are trying to push this argument that it's Christian-Muslim, one of our analysts that used to normally come here, Dahiru, was seen, and he came out clearly on television saying, I'm a Muslim, but I don't support what the Sultan said to mitigate the fact that there's Christian genocide in this country. So does it mean every Muslim think like that? No. There are some Muslims that know that there's Christian genocide and they're speaking up against it. Dahiru spoke.
They are speaking up against the Islamic extremists.
So let's be clear as regards this. That's just the point I'm making, because there's a lot of ignorance. And people, when they go the path of ignorance, they also go the path of extremism.
All right. So I'd like to read out these statistics as well before I come to you. In another development, international Christian advocacy organizations have intensified calls for action over violence against Christians in Nigeria, citing alarming statistics and high-profile cases of religious persecution. Well, according to Catholic Arena and Open Doors, 3,100 Christians were killed during their most recent reporting period, with 69% of all global faith-related murders occurring in Nigeria. The organizations highlighted brutal cases, including 19-year-old Deborah Samuel, lynched by a mob who recorded her killing and celebrated it publicly before walking free from court. Father Isaac Achi burned alive when terrorists firebombed his church, and seminarian Naman Danlami executed by kidnappers because he was Christian. They note that 12 states in northern Nigeria have enforced Sharia law since the 1990s, creating systematic persecution of Christians and threatening converts with death. Also, Leah Shaibu, kidnapped by ISWAP in 2018, remains in captivity for refusing to convert to Islam. The groups accuse the Nigerian government of being, at best, useless or, at worst, complicit, citing President Muhammadu Buhari's 2022 decision to proceed with a public event hours after the Pentecost terror attack. Well, U.S. Representative Riley Moore has responded to the report in a post on X, stating, Nigeria is the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. 50,000 to 100,000 of our brothers and sisters in Christ have been martyred. Since 2009 in Nigeria, 7,000 have been murdered. This year alone, that's 35 Christians murdered per day. Thank you to the President of the United States for designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern to end the bloodshed, and for asking me to lead this investigation in the House. Thank you, Catholic Arena, for helping to shed light on this genocide. And, Riley Moore has been quite vocal. In fact, he has, opened an investigation in the House at this moment as we speak. He's been granting interviews even up until last night. He spoke about the fact that they're all coming together to support what he says. President Trump doesn't really need any sort of backing, but he says that they are backing President Trump with the proposal of coming into Nigeria to put boots on ground.
So I believe that if we had acknowledged the problem at the instance, or even before President Trump spoke about it, we wouldn't see all these numbers that are stacked. Maybe we even needed it to actually understand the reality of what Christians in Nigeria are going through. Now, this also reveals the fact that there's a different experience for Christians living in the South and Christians living in the North. And if you listen to a lot of people who have spoken, if you listen to the pastors in the North, they have a much deeper experience, whether it's from Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, I spoke to a few of them, Pastor Chris Delvan, I spoke to Pastor, a few pastors who have a congregation in the North, and they'll tell you what they've been facing through. Then you come to the South and they're like, Bimba, are you not a Christian? Do you feel persecuted? It's a different reality. And we cannot judge based on our limited view, and even be grateful for the fact that we experience and enjoy religious freedom in the South. And so it's a different reality. It's almost as if there are two nations. One is a different set of rules in the South and a different set of rules for the North. And at this point, I think it's high time Nigerians apologized to the Christians living in the North for too long. Their voices have been left unheard. For decades. And now we see a lot of people now coming out, and they're not just coming out to speak, they're coming out with receipts, pictures, gory. You saw the pictures yesterday that someone sent to you. Gory pictures, children, adults, pastors, churches being burnt. And yet somebody is still trying to color the word and saying, no, let's not call it. Okay, call it whatever name. Let me even marry the names together. It is genocide orchestrated by extremists. Is that satisfactory?
Right.
Genocide, okay, if you need to watch Professor Bolaji Akinyemi's interview earlier on. And they did an interview with the US congressman as well. And it was based on facts.
Right.
Because the US congressman, she gave us more context when we spoke to her that he actually has churches in the north. These people hear stories directly from the ground.
Correct.
Don't forget that we still have missions of American churches that establish churches in the north. And they hear what their people are saying. So can we ask now that having established the fact that there is a genocide and a deliberate attack on religious freedom in the north, can we address this? Let's leave the nomenclature. Let's leave the propaganda. Let's leave the, oh no, it's not. Can we have done these people an injustice for too long.
Right.
Finally, on the point of the religious leaders, I think aside from the lack of political will and the irresponsibility of government, and I say that with all due respect, is also the silence of a number of Christians in the south who had religious freedom and watched their northern brothers go through it all and do nothing.
Right.
When Charlie Kirk died in America, Nigeria took it as if it was one of their brothers.
And
it was one of the criticisms that a number of churches said that we have thousands of people dying in the north. Not once have you used your platform to make a case for them.
Right.
Then someone in America dies because the US has carried the news. We now all came out. I put it to all, I'm a member of the constituent, so I speak responsibly about this, that it is high time that the Christians in the south who have the privilege and blessing of religious freedom to speak up for their brothers and sisters in the north and use the platform that God has given them to actually ensure that we find a solution and let there be true peace and religious freedom in Nigeria for both the Christians, the Muslims, and anyone who wants to stay on their own.
Well said, Ayo, really well said. I mean, imagine the televangelist saying that he grew up in the north, thinking that Christians, or believing that Christians were endangered species in Nigeria. Meanwhile, presidential spokesman Daniel Bwala is intensifying his pushback against what he calls a false narrative of Christian genocide in Nigeria. Bwala, who has been making multiple global appearances to counter his characterization, appeared on our nightly news program Primetime to discuss the Tinubu administration's approach to insecurity and the diplomatic fallout following President Donald Trump's designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern for religious freedom violations. During the interview, Bwala defended the government's record, arguing that the Tinubu administration has made significant progress in tackling insecurity. He went further, claiming that the crime rate in Nigeria is actually less than the crime rate in the United States. Let's take a look.
What we call the fallacy of media generalization. And I'm saying that right now, given our present state, the crime rate in Nigeria is less than the crime rate in the United States of America. With all of the budget, the strongest economy and the strongest force in the world. It's a matter of context. You don't hear that in their news. We have our opinion about them. You see, gone are those days where our own story is told by others. Context is key in everything. We know the problems we are combating and we are faced up and we are working towards. But that is not to suggest as if we're an isolated country in this side of heaven that has a peculiar problem that they don't have. The United States of America has even the problem of understanding what democracy is. The other day, was it a 2 million march that they said no king? Is that not a democratic country? I told you about the crime rate in America. Do you know the system? The government was shut down. Our government is not even shut down. You see, this continuous vituperations and repetition of word around corruption, bad governance, bribery, and the rest that they talk about, which part of the world they don't have that?
Well, actually,
which part of the world they don't have this?
Wow. But, I mean, Bwala's controversial argument claiming that insecurity is worse in the United States will definitely raise eyebrows both domestically and internationally. Critics will ask, are we really comparing gun violence in America with mass abduction, bandit attacks, and what many communities describe as religious persecution in Nigeria? Are these comparable situations? I mean, before I come to you, let me, highlight this in the meantime. Armed gunmen, disguised in military uniforms, carried out coordinated attacks on travelers in Kogi and Kwara states, leaving passengers shot, kidnapped and stranded along major highways. One of the attacks occurred early Monday morning on Kaba-Okene Highway in Kogi State, where gunmen attacked a commercial bus. One of the passengers escaped. Here's his account of the incident.
Now me escape, now me. They don't carry me enter bush. Fulani. One enter, wait till they call now. Army soldier, army uniform. Now only one. All of them, they be Fulani. They shoot this glass when no enter. Now they're going to use their all those Fulani cutlass. They're going to cut and now here me I sit down. They rapid everybody inside motor. Now they're going to carry us go inside bush like this. Now like this they carry us enter. And they carry us enter bush like this. Now me, now I run. Yeah, and they don't care all those people they carry load.
Well, hours after the Kogi incident, terrorists opened fire on vehicles along the Ekuku-Egbe Road in Kwara State, forcing travelers to abandon their vehicles and flee into the bush for safety. The Monday attacks followed a deadly ambush on the Ayere-Kaba Road just the previous day, revealing a disturbing pattern of coordinated violence targeting commuters on routes linking two states. The use of military uniforms by the attackers represent a brazen impersonation of security forces, creating confusion among travelers and undermining public confidence in legitimate security personnel. I mean, there are 3 attacks in just 2 days, Vimbai, on the same corridor. This is not, just a random banditry, but systematic terrorism designed to paralyze movement and instill fear on commuters. The fact that criminals now brazenly wear military uniforms while the real military struggles to secure highway raises uncomfortable questions about intelligent failures and operation gaps. How many more Nigerians must be kidnapped or killed on our roads before our security agencies mount sustained operations to clear the death traps? Meanwhile, counterinsurgency group Zagazola Makama shared a video on X on Monday showing alleged intense clashes between Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters, according to the group, which has become a key source for tracking insurgent activity in the northeast. The battle resulted in over 100 casualties, with Boko Haram reportedly gaining the upper hand and overrunning several ISWAP camps. And then, Vimbai, I ask you this question again. The comparison that Daniel Bwala just made about the crime rate in Nigeria being less than the crime rate in America, it's like a slap in the face for many Nigerians. Like I have just highlighted at this moment. We're not talking about gun violence. We're talking about banditry. We're talking about serious terrorism where Boko Haram is in the waters right there, shooting and killing people. 100, as reported by Zagazola Makama just on Monday. Your thoughts?
Well, as a media aide to the president of a nation, the most populous black nation on earth, I would have hoped that he would understand the fundamental distinction between crime and terrorism. So crime is something that is self-motivated. I see an opportunity to rob a bank, I rob a bank. I see somebody wealthy and I think that I can steal their necklace, I steal their necklace. It's an individually driven illegal act. Now, when we speak terrorism, we speak of ideology, we speak of doctrine, we speak of organized groups of people who are doing coordinated acts in order to achieve whatever their end goal is. Look at that exchange between ISWAP and Boko Haram. You can't compare that to crime. Those are organized groups of people, well-funded, well-armed, and now look at them. They are even well-equipped with logistics. They have boats, they have motorcycles, they have all manner of paraphernalia to enable this ideological movement, illegal ideological movement they're pushing. So to try and downplay that and reduce that to crime, is a fundamentally flawed argument because intrinsically they are totally different things.
Right.
If you go to the United States, you will not see herdsmen with AK-47 terrorizing people who are trying to make a living off of their small plot of land to feed their families.
Right.
And then when it's time to legislate around restraining, the herders and the movement of animals and so forth, it is not a contentious issue in the United States Congress because there is a awareness that human beings have greater rights than animals.
Right.
That's why we talk about fundamental ideological differences.
Correct.
Please, let's not compare apples and oranges.
Absolutely. Rufai, he also, though, reeled out to his defense, responding to President Trump's, what's it called, the rescue mission, that, the Tinubu administration has gained a lot after that tweet and, reeled out the numbers of this people that have been killed so far by our military forces.
I don't think Daniel Bwala has a moral justification to talk about this issue.
30 seconds, please.
Because this was the same Bwala that left the APC because there was a Muslim ticket. Why did he leave the APC because there was a Muslim ticket then? If not for the fact that it was not going to augur well, and for the fact that we had a lot of complaints on ground.
All right.
And his conviction there was that as a Christian. So the question we should ask him is that what changed?
Right. All right.
Secondly, that's a territorial battle going on. And that goes back to my point about extremism. That these people, they have sponsors, they have intent, they have ideology. In fact, a lot of them perpetrate crimes on Muslim sacred days. So if you say it's about the tenets of a religion, that's why I say, let's not go into the rabbit hole of pitting religion against each other. They perpetrate on Muslim sacred days.
All right.
And what they are doing now is fighting for supremacy.
All right, that's it.
To be able to guard each other's territory. So it's a deeper problem we must look at.
We must tackle insurgency, and that's the biggest problem. Well, amidst growing apprehension, after Trump ordered the U.S. Department of Defense to prepare for possible action in Nigeria over reported killings of Christians in the country, actor and comedian Emmanuel Orekai has issued an emotional appeal to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the federal government of Nigeria, demanding urgent action to address the nation's security and economic challenges. While in his latest social media post, the comedian welcomed Trump's offer to eliminate terrorists in the country while criticizing those who claim that the United States has ulterior motives other than the rescue mission. Let's take a look.
You say that Trump is coming to pack your resources. Which resources? Which resources? My brother don't graduate in seven years. He don't see work. Many graduates are dead. They don't see work. Graduate is doing a work of 70,000 a month. 70,000 a month. What are you benefiting? What are you benefiting as a Nigerian? What are you benefiting? They're kidnapping your people every day. If they're going, you will travel from here to local journal. If they don't kidnap your papa. But they kidnap footballs. Nigerian police cannot say anything. Nigerian army cannot do anything. But as Trump talked with yesterday now, Nigerian army say they don't kidnap, they don't catch 17,000 people, 7,000 So you can catch these criminals. You are waiting for Trump to talk. You are waiting for Trump to talk. No food, no water, no road, no light, no health care. Go to UBTH, go to any hospital, go to Zaria, go to any hospital, and see the problem there. So they want to come and see. They want to come and take your resources. Which resources? Is it your cassava? Is it your oil? Is it the gold that I didn't pack in the gold before? Your ass a president pack the gold. Money will they give local government to do the road. They do the road and they ask you. You're making math in comment section that they want to pack your resources. Which resources do you have? Are you benefiting it as a Nigerian?
I mean, his frustration right there speaks loud.
Yeah.
Some people were cracking up, but at the same time, he spoke the valid truth.
This is what the street
This
is
is
saying.
what it
Let
is.
me just say it in the street.
Yes.
This is what the street is saying.
Which
If
resources
you
are
ask
we
the average man, he's like, you people are shouting about resources. The one
Is
that
it
is not
your
touching.
cassava?
Because they
only-
don't benefit.
Yes, because only a few
Because
people
only the few people,
benefit.
the politicians
I'm
eat all
not
the
saying it is
resources.
right. We do not want America to come and take advantage of the situation. But I want you to also understand that sometimes when your own people have failed, the biggest insult is now to ask outsiders to come in and come and help us. But I think it's important, Oji, that both comedians, everybody is learning their voices in whatever language people can understand. It has to the form of art, of comedy, to music, to stage plays. Let us get the message out there until a solution is done.
Well said. We must all speak out. Thank you all for your submission. Now, under milestones, we remember a dark chapter in Nigeria's history, marking 30 years since the execution of environmental activist and writer Ken Saro-Wiwa alongside 8 other Ogoni activists on November 10, 1995. The 9 Ogoni leaders were executed by hanging under the military regime of General Sani Abacha following what international observers condemned as a grossly unfair trial. Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni 8 paid the ultimate price for their fearless advocacy for environmental dignity and human rights in the Niger Delta, a region devastated by decades of oil exploration and pollution by multinational corporations. Their execution sparked global outrage, leading to Nigeria's suspension from the Commonwealth and intensified international pressure on the military regime. Saro-Wiwa's powerful voice had exposed the environmental degradation, destroying Ogoni land, oil spills, poisoning water sources, gas flaring, polluting the air, and multinational profits leaving behind impoverished communities. 3 decades later, the Niger Delta still grapples with environmental destruction, reminding us that the struggle Saro-Wiwa died for remains unfinished. His words continue to echo. Whether I live or die is immaterial. It is enough to know that there are people who commit time, money, and energy to fight this one evil. Ken Saro-Wiwa's martyrdom transformed him from activist to icon, from the voice of the voiceless to eternal symbol of resistance against environmental injustice. 30 years after his execution, Nigeria must ask itself, have we honored his sacrifice by protecting our environment and holding polluters accountable, or have we allowed his death to be in vain? May his soul and the Ogoni 8 continue to rest in peace. I'd love to thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.